Hey everyone, it's Monday and time for another episode of Monday Mastery live at 5. I'm Rick Sodebeer, dating and relationship coach, and I'm here to help you make better decisions about the people you date and the relationships you get into. Just a quick update. As you can see, or those of you that are here regularly can see, I'm in Ironwood, Michigan, and in my office up here. And it's been kind of a quick trip, bringing up some of the last of my belongings to put into storage up here. And I was hoping to get out of town before it snowed, but now the forecast is bumped up to 3 to 6 inches of snow by 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So I will be leaving in probably 3 or 4 inches of slushy wet snow. So at least for the first 20 miles or so. So that ought to be interesting. It depends on how cold it gets tonight. Right now it's about 36, but the snow's coming down pretty good. And it's just kind of wintry up here. And for those of you that saw a post that I put on Facebook earlier today, I did a little 20-second video of it starting to snow. And one of my tenants is a Christmas wreath manufacturer called Uper Wreath. So I'll give them a little plug today. And they have all their pine boughs and some of their finished wreaths stacked up outside. And it just really looks Christmassy, and the aroma is amazing. When you have that many pine boughs, it just smells like Christmas. I know I'm pushing the season, but they're the ones that kind of push me over the edge on that one. So anyway, I hope you all had a great and blessed week last week and had fun Halloweening. If you went Halloweening, hope you got lots of candy and were safe from all the partying and whatnot that may have gone on Saturday night and Sunday. So anyway, let's get going. Hey Bernard, thanks for tuning in. 72 degrees and sunny in Douglas, Georgia. Nice. And hey, Tricia, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. It's it's only about 36, and the temperatures are going to start going down because the sun is getting lower on the horizon here. So it's going to be an interesting night, and this could be the year that I travel up here and home with nothing but snowstorms each way. So I've had that happen before too. But anyway, let's over the weekend, specifically last night. Over the weekend, I've had a couple of interesting things happen that caused me to want to revisit our conversation from last week about letting go. And it can be very hard to let go. The first incident that happened is that an ex-girlfriend reached out to me and had a question, and it thanked me for sending a card to her daughter for her wedding. And we started texting back and forth, and it became a little difficult. And I'm going into a little bit of detail here to kind of give you some background because I was driving, and we're not supposed to text and drive. So I called her. And we had a pleasant conversation, and it was pleasantries. There wasn't anything deep and groundbreaking. We both continued to agree that it wasn't the right relationship for either one of us, and that kind of brought up a thought because somebody had commented. About I had made a comment last week about being addicted because of the various hormones, the oxytocin, the dopamine, the serotonin. Those hormones can create an addiction to somebody, and it's just there's nothing you can really do about it because it's these hormones help us develop connections to each other. Now, when you're in love and when you're in love with somebody, those hormones kind of fire, and studies show that hormones like dopamine trigger the same part of the brain as drugs do. Or alcohol does. When an addict goes for looks for their next fix, or gets their next fix, they're triggering that part of the brain. Same thing that happens in a relationship. So we have to be aware of that, and that's sometimes why it's so difficult to let go. And it's, while it was wonderful to hear my ex's voice, because I care about her and her family very much, it was still hurtful because, like any other exit, like an exit interview, or even just a short conversation about hi, how you doing, it opens up old wounds. It makes you start thinking about how it might be, or how it might have been. And every time you start getting into that, it's without being too gross or too graphic, it's like peeling a scab off of a fresh wound. And once you started to heal, you don't want to go after that scab. You want it to heal over and skin over. And Bernard says, in EMS we call dopamine no hopamine. That's pretty accurate. So anyway, you don't want to start opening up old wounds again. And that's exactly what happened in my conversation with my ex. Is it opened up a wound that was healing over nicely, but there were also a couple of revelations that I gathered from our conversation. Is that her voice wasn't as pleasant as it had been in the past. It wasn't. It wasn't the loving voice that I'd heard. She was standoffish and a little bit on the cold side, which she can be, which we all can be. I'm not going to pick on her. Hey, Deb, thanks for. I'm going to post this. I'm going to show this one real quick. Hi from Urgent Care in Covina, California. Hopefully, Deb, you're working there and you're not there. Being treated. So, but thanks for joining in. I'm glad you're here. So those, when you start dealing with, when you start listening to the voice or the tone of voice, and you can come to some very quick conclusions or understandings that this is not a relationship or as Bernard called it, it's a no hopamine type of friendship. Oh no. Deb says she fell backwards off a ladder onto a concrete driveway. Oh no. Ow, that hurts. I hope you're okay, Deb. Take care of yourself, please. And ladders can be wicked stuff. There's lots of injuries caused by ladders. Just ask Bernard. So anyway, the whole idea, a lot of times we get this grand idea that if we could just have a conversation, kind of an exit interview, and to get some closure. 99% of the time they aren't going to work. While you may gain an understanding of why they left or why things happened, it's generally not going to be that satisfying, because again, you get that rush of hormones by reconnecting. You also open up the possibility that, let's say the conversation goes really well. Then you start to get those feelings coming back. You both get those feelings and say, well, maybe we can make this work. Do you want to give it a try? Sure, let's give it a try. Deb says, well, at least I'm being entertained, right? Well, I hope so. I hope you're getting some good information tonight. And so all these feelings start coming back from the relationship, and what happens is you start to think about all the good aspects of the relationship. You forget about the negatives. And it isn't until it may be as soon as the next day, but odds are you start getting that infatuation situation again, and you start putting the blinders on and start ignoring the red flags or the problems that were there to begin with. And I've said, if I've said this once, I've said it 1,000 times, that the reason you left the first time is going to be the same reason you leave the second time, the third time, the fourth time, because the problems or the red flags or the reasons you left the first time haven't changed. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they did something wrong. It may be just a personality characteristic or a trait or something that rubs you the wrong way, or there's no chemistry or whatever it is. Just because you're comfortable and know somebody doesn't mean you need to end up back with them, especially if there's no chemistry. Hey, Stacy, thanks for joining in. Stacy says it's just a repeat of the SOS. Absolutely. But you'd be surprised how many people do that. And I'm going to raise my hand. I've done that a couple of times. I've gone back in a couple of relationships only to be disappointed the second time, and in one case the third time. So it's the important thing to remember is that when you end a relationship, you need to end it. And it's just one of those things that if you try to stay and and so many of us would like to remain friends. And while that's such an admirable goal, it's not necessarily the correct thing to do. Because when you maintain a connection to somebody that you've dated, especially if you've been intimate, it keeps you emotionally tied to that person. Even if you're not in a relationship, it keeps you emotionally tied, and they can become a person that you judge all of the next relationships on. Is he or she as good as this person? Hey, Lindy, thanks for joining in. Lindy says, I've been seeing someone for about 6 weeks. Youngest daughter, still in high school. Is it wrong that I don't like the kids still in school kind of thing? Should this be a red flag for me? No and yes. And Lindy, the reason I say that is we are all entitled to our own desires, the characteristics or the traits or the things that we want in our next relationship. And look at your must-have list, and maybe on your must-have list, if it's not on there, you should put that if they have children, that they're grown and out of the house. Having kids. If you've raised your kids, which I know you have, you've raised your sons, you don't necessarily, or at least for me, I'll speak for me, I don't necessarily want to start raising someone else's children. So that's, I don't think, Lindy, in your case, I think that is a red flag. And it doesn't make him a bad guy. Doesn't mean that it couldn't be a great relationship. But if that's not where you're at, then there's no point in being there. Now, granted, the kids, I don't know how old the kids are, or the daughter is. If she's in high school, is that something that do you want to deal with all the high school issues and all of those events? Even if the youngest one is still in high school, he's probably, I'm guessing he's probably got a child or two in college. So there's a lot of distraction there. You have to, if you're looking for a relationship where you are the focus, this is not going to be that relationship. Now, we all have, for all of us that have children, we all are going to pay attention to our kids. When they call, we're going to take the call. We're going to follow through and do things with them. We're going to have holidays with them. But when somebody has kids that are still in school, that becomes another issue because that is their main focus. And it should be. If he's a good dad, that should be his main focus. And then you become a secondary secondary relationship. And that can be tough. If you're looking to be the primary relationship, then you're going to have a conflict there, and it's always going to be something emotional. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. That's just the way it is. And don't think that you're being selfish, because you want what you want. If he says, "Well, that's not right. That's being selfish," then that's his opinion. And opinions are like belly buttons. Everybody has one. So I hope that answered your question, Lindy. Bernard says, "I'm coming off an almost 4-year relationship, and Bernard says, save it for the grandkids, spoil me, and send them home." There you go. That's another Lindy for Lindy. That's another opinion from a guy. So it seems like we're on the same page. Now, Lindy, if you had kids still in school, yeah, it could be a great potential relationship because you have those things in common. But to be put on the back burner, so to speak, because he has to take care of the kids, as he should. I'm not going to condemn him for taking care of the kids. Anybody that walks away from his children or her children, either way, should be checked off your list, and the first word out of your mouth should be next, because he or she is obviously not does not have the ability to commit to long-term relationships. If you can't commit to your children, then why would I expect you to commit to me? Hey, Stephen. Thanks for joining in. Deborah, thanks to see you. Glad to see you're here in Lee's Summit. Stephen, where are you now? Are you still out in what is it, South Carolina, enjoying? I think you told me earlier it was 72 on the beach. You bugger. Stephen, I'll just give you all a quick heads up here. Stephen's a buddy of mine, a sailing buddy, and a camping buddy. We stay in the same campground in the summer, and so anyway, hope you're doing well, Stephen. Enjoying your time in the sun out there. Anyway, so all of these things. These are all things that we have to pay attention to in looking for our ideal relationship. If in Lindy's case, Lindy, if it's not feeling right, don't feel guilty about it not feeling right. Don't feel guilty for the things that you want. Don't feel guilty for it not being the situation that you want. when we're looking for extraordinary, we should be looking for that person that's going to enhance our lives. And there are some of you out there that are going to say, "Oh yeah, I could handle kids. That's just fine." But if you're not into it, then don't do it. So hey, Phil, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. Phil's is watching from Kansas City. So, and I will be back there tomorrow. So those are the, that's a great question, Lindy. And anybody else that has questions or comments, shoot them in. And again, I go back to the letting go. Oh, which leads me to another observation, is that I watched a great movie last night, and it's been out for, I think, I don't know, for a few years. It's a Matt Damon movie called We Bought a Zoo, and it really has some great points about letting go. But the one thing that I really observed is that his brother, Matt Damon, Deborah says she loved that movie. It was an awesome movie. It was a tearjerker even for me in a couple of scenes. So, but one of the things that I caught early on is the main character, Matt Damon's brother, the guy that plays his brother, is trying to convince him to start dating after only about 6 months. And I'm not going to spoil the whole story for you, but for those of you that haven't seen it, but he was recently widowed, and the story parallels a story that I shared with you a month or so ago, 6 weeks ago, about the widower who was already out dating seriously, looking for his next wife, and because he didn't want to be alone. And while in this, we talk about this in the book, in my book, Dating Backward. Life is not like the movies. It's not like the romance novels. We have to understand that we don't have a script writer to script out the lines and to give us the appropriate emotions or the appropriate thoughts and feelings at the right time. Life just doesn't work like that. It's one of those things, and I know it, and it is based on a true story, but for 99% of us, or 99.5% of us, we need to take time to heal. And now this in the movie, the zoo was a therapeutic thing for the main character. But it just struck me that is such a common occurrence, that family and friends want us to get out and start dating. They want us to be happy, but they have no idea, especially for widows and widowers. They have no idea the pain and the grief that's going on and the turmoil that's going on inside. And as I've talked over the last several months, I truly believe that losing a spouse, or having a spouse die, is much more difficult to move through than it is to get a divorce. Because not only do you lose the marriage, but you've lost your partner. So you have to grieve the loss of both the spouse and the marriage, whereas you just grieve the loss of the marriage in a divorce. And feel free to disagree with me. Throw me your opinions. I'm always open to, as they say, change my mind. But normally when you get a divorce, you're generally upset with your partner and are ready to move on and try to find somebody that is a better fit. And that's what these conversations should be all about, or what I'm trying to convey in these, that when you make better decisions up front, you're not going to have the problems that so commonly arise in mediocre relationships. Uh, so by doing more due diligence up front and not settling, you're much less likely to end up in divorce court in the second or third marriage. When you look at divorce statistics, 60% of first marriages survive, and that 40% is where the number of divorces starts to increase. 60% of second marriages, over 60%, nearly 70% of third marriages fail, and the numbers continue to get to get worse the more times you get married. And all that displays, at least to me, is that we're continuing to make bad choices. It's when I talk to most people, especially shortly after a divorce, they can tell me more about what they don't want in a relationship or their next relationship than what they do want. So consequently, they'll go for, literally the opposite of what they had. And then they're going to date there for a while, and they're going to discover, no, that wasn't the right thing. And that's where this bouncing around and dating and getting frustrated with dating and relationships, all that stuff comes into play here because we're not paying attention to what's important to us. And if you're doing your due diligence, you should be making your must-have list, your list of non-negotiable characteristics that you want in your next relationship. And I do mean non-negotiable. I always throw out this question to anybody I talk to, especially when we're talking, it's somebody I'm getting to know. And I said, if you have 20 things on your must-have list and I have 19, what are you going to say? What are you going to do? And almost to a person, they come back and say, well, maybe it really depends on what that one is. And I said, no, they're all non-negotiable. And almost no one comes back and says, I'd walk away. But that should be the first thing you do. And I'll use me as an example, that if I have 19 out of your 20 must-haves, then the first word out of your mouth should be next. Or if I have any one of your deal breakers, doesn't make any difference what kind of chemistry we may have. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make me a bad person. Lindy, if you're still here, it doesn't make you a bad person for wanting what you want. We all have specific things that we want in a relationship. And if we all wanted the same thing, it would be easy. We'd all be connected with somebody and we'd be living happily ever after. It doesn't work that way. And Stephen says, I think forward to thrive. It keeps me alive. Absolutely. And that's a great point, Stephen. You have to look forward. If you're looking at just the here and now, it's all fun and games. But when you're looking for an extraordinary relationship, when you're looking for your soulmate, you should be able to see into the future, or picture yourself with that partner in the future. If you can't see that, if you can't see them being there, then it's probably not an extraordinary relationship. And it's and again, it doesn't make either one of you a bad person for wanting what you want, or for there not being a certain chemistry there. It just means that it's not the right relationship. And if it's not the right relationship now, I guarantee you in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it's still not going to be the right relationship. Can you make it work? Absolutely. Look at the 60% of marriages that survive. Of those 60% of first marriages that survive, about 85% of them are just mediocre. Yeah, they may even rank good, but they're not extraordinary. They're not soulmate relationships. Most of those relationships are just going through the motions to just to make it through life. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to live like that. I want somebody that's going to enhance my life. I want to be a part of somebody's life. I want to enhance somebody else's life. And I would think all of you would want the same thing. I'm hoping you do. That should be the ultimate goal, is to be a driving force for someone that makes them want to wake up next to you, that makes them want to say I love you when the lights go out. There are so many possibilities out there. But when we put on blinders, hey Lonnie, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. When you start settling, and most of us can sense when we're settling, when it's not right. You may not be able to put your finger on it. You may not be able to immediately identify it, but if you think about it for a while, you'll start to recognize that something is off. Hey, Nancy, thanks for joining in. Janelle, thank you for joining in, saying hi. Janelle says, yes, enhancing each other. And that's what extraordinary relationships or soulmate relationships are all about. You enhance each other's lives. Hey, Gina, thanks for joining in. Gina says, making so much sense. I'm glad. That's the whole idea. And it's so hard, when you find someone that you love. And even and when you start to recognize that they're not the right one, it can be so hard to let go because you love this basket of stuff over here, but then you've got to deal with this basket of crap over here, and there's no such thing as a perfect person. But when you find that right one, their idiosyncrasies or the stuff that might be baggage to somebody else, or the stuff that might be a problem to somebody else, is not going to be a problem for you. It's in the X I just talked about at the beginning of the show, or beginning of the podcast. She and I had so much in common. And it was just, the relationship was so easy. Everything just seemed to fit together. But as we got to know each other, there were a couple of things that just kind of peeled everything apart. And that's going to happen. And unfortunately, whenever you're searching for your soulmate, those are the things that are going to happen. Could we try and make it work? Could I accept some things that rub me the wrong way? Yeah, probably. But guess what? Those things are going to rub me the wrong way, just like things that you don't want to accept. And I'll go back to Lindy, that if she sticks with the guy she's dating with the daughter still in school, that's going to rub her the wrong way. And that's going to create friction. And the whole idea of finding extraordinary is to take as many of the roadblocks and hurdles out of the way. We're not going to get all of them out of the way. Life happens. There's going to be things that cause us to get stressed, that cause us to get cranky and not be always as pleasant as we should be or could be. But when that happens, we have to be able to recognize it. And when you're with the right person, your partner is going to be there to lift you up, or to pull you up if you're down in the dumps, or if you're spiraling into a black hole of negativity. They'll be there to pick you up with positivity, and not that I'm saying, oh, everything's great, but they will be there to support you. Especially if something goes wrong, just like you're there to support them if something goes wrong. So there's extraordinary relationships are few and far between. They're not. They're not. I'm just at a loss for words here. They're not something that can be manufactured. They are organic in nature. Now we can work on a relationship, we can work on communications, and we all need to work on communications. When we meet somebody and start to get to know somebody, we have to be able to share our communication styles and say, hey, when this happens, this is what's going on in my head, or when you say this is what's going on in my head, and they need to share the same things back with you. And it needs to be done in a fun and safe environment, even though the conversations may not be everything that we want to hear. We have to be able to have the adult conversations. We have to be able to share what's deep down inside us without fear of retribution. If retribution is something that you get often, and we've all heard stories, and ladies, you are great at remembering things from 6 months, a year, 2 years ago. And part of that is because you attach everything to emotions. Guys, we put those things in a box and store it away. And then all of a sudden, when you bring that conversation back, or when you remind me of something when you remind us of something that we said, oh yeah, I kind of remember that. But you guys have a way of attaching emotions to that and to that conversation, and it sticks in your memory in a different way than it does for us. So you have to be, ladies, you have to be a little bit gentle with us, because a lot of times, and this is what happened with my ex-wife, a lot of times I felt like I was being attacked for something I said 6 months ago or a year ago, and all of a sudden it's being thrown back in my face. And ladies, I know we can do the same thing to you. Guys, you can say something, and then all of a sudden your husband or your ex or your boyfriend will come back and start throwing crap in your face, and, well, you never do this, you never do that, and da, da, da. That's not the way to have good communication. You're welcome, Lonnie. Lonnie says, thank you. I needed this today. So we all have to learn how to communicate. We have to figure out what our how to speak to our partners. And one of the ways that I found is one of the easiest ways is to date somebody, or when you're in a relationship with somebody, to be in a relationship with someone that has similar love languages. If you haven't read the book, The 5 Love Languages, get it, read it, learn it. And learn what your love languages are, at least the top 2 love languages, so that when you start talking to somebody, you can get a sense of who they are. Now, my top 2 are physical touch and acts of service. Man, if you got something broken in the house, I will be there to help you fix it, or I will just take the initiative to do it. If you need laundry done, let me know. I'll throw a load of laundry in. Or if you need something ironed, I'll do the ironing. I'll clean the bathrooms. I don't care. If you need something done, let me know. And physical touch is not necessarily sex. That's a great part of it, which, side note, that should wait until marriage. And the older I get, the more convinced I am of that of that fact. God created us to be in relationship with each other. And sex is a great part of that relationship, but we get too screwed up if we introduce sex into the relationship too soon. Gina says, soulmate relationships are like a puzzle where all the pieces fit. In most relationships, we try to cram the pieces together and make it work. Absolutely. That's an awesome illustration, Gina. I love that. It's just, there are certain pieces that fit together, and I think one of the major pieces that most of us overlook are the love languages. The book says, and he is correct. We can learn how to speak another person's love languages, but it is so much more difficult to try to communicate in a foreign language than it is in your own natural language. And for those of you that don't know, I'll just give you a quick synopsis. The 5 love languages are acts of service, physical touch, gifts, words of affirmation, and quality time. And those are and I've dated women that physical touch was not a high priority for them. In fact, one woman I dated, it was so awkward sitting next to her. Because of physical touch, I like to hold hands. I like to snuggle on the couch while we're watching a movie. And when I sat next to her, it was like it felt like a brick wall or an ice dam between us. It was just cold. It was uncomfortable, and it was like it's just almost defies description on how uncomfortable it was. Let me catch this here real quick. Phil says, my late wife and I of 25 years had a Chippendale cartoon marriage, always showing each other how to care and love for one and love one another. Awesome. And that's the way it should be. And that's I go back to what I said earlier, is that to build on what Phil said, you enhanced each other's lives. And those are the awesome marriages, and those are the things that now, Phil, keep looking. You'll find another extraordinary woman or another soulmate if you keep looking, and she'll just be different. And that's something that you have to accept. And it's often hard to understand because you're so used to an extraordinary of certain characteristics, certain traits, and the next woman is going to be different. But she'll make you feel the same way your late wife did. And so the difficult part here is that I know so many of you have never experienced extraordinary. And until you do, you'll never truly understand why so many of your relationships just never worked. When you find that extraordinary, when you find your soulmate, that's when the light will come on and you'll go, aha, now I get it. This is why none of the others worked. And part of the process here is to keep searching. And it gets frustrating, I know. But part of the process is to keep going, to keep moving forward. God designed us to be in relationship, not just with him, but with someone special. And yes, you can settle and you can try to work on all the problems later on, but that's not the way it's supposed to work. At least not in my world, not in my opinion. When you do your due diligence up front, and due diligence is nothing more than taking your time to find all the right pieces, like Gina said, find all the right puzzle pieces so they all fit together. And when they do, it's going to be this incredibly magical puzzle that comes to life. And this is the point when I try to describe a soulmate relationship. The connections are just so deep and so amazing that they literally defy description. And this is why you have to learn or take time. Sometimes I don't know that you can necessarily learn how to let go of somebody. There are techniques, there are there are things that you can do to make the letting go easier, the moving on easier. You can disconnect from your ex, and when I say disconnect, you can block their phone number or just drop it altogether. Or delete it from your phone. You can block them on social media, and it's not that they're doing anything wrong or torturing or tormenting you. You're more likely tormenting yourself, because you're the one that's going to be tempted to go see what they're doing. And then you're going to get hurt, and then you're going to have your feelings hurt for whatever reason, either because they're out having more fun, or you got to see them again, and it's just opening up that old wound. So it's all about being able to be mature, be an adult, and be able to walk away from that relationship and not turn around and look back. And that just brought up the picture of Sodom and Gomorrah when God was destroying the city, and Lot's wife turns around and they weren't supposed to turn around and look, and she turned into a pillar of salt. And that's what happens to us. We turn into pillars of salt because we're looking backwards. Your future is not behind you. It's ahead of you. And every time you look back, every time you take time to dwell on past relationships, it's holding you in place. And it's preventing you from moving forward. So it's and it's not easy. I'm not trying to tell you it's easy by any stretch of the imagination. It takes time. But one of the other things, besides blocking them or unfriending them and blocking them, go out and do things in the community. Do things for other people. The minute you start doing something for somebody else, your mind is focused on something else other than a past relationship, other than a past love. So it's keep your time occupied. When you spend too much time alone, and you have to have alone time, don't misunderstand me, but when you spend too much time alone, you're going to spend too much time dwelling on the past. And if you're going to spend time alone, start focusing on what you need to do to move forward. Are there changes you need to make in your life? Do you need to change scenery? Do you need to change your attitude? Do you need to change your circle of friends? And that can be a huge issue right there, because if you were a couple for any amount of time, you may need to change your circle of friends, simply for the fact that every time you see your old friends, it's going to bring back memories of a past relationship. And that's not always easy to deal with. And so changing circles of friends, when you're first divorced, when you're widowed, it's important to not only maintain your current circle of friends, because most of them are married, but you need to start developing circles of friends that are single. And I say circles, plural, because you don't want to get stuck in a particular circle, because each particular circle of friends is going to have its own personality. And they're going to hang around with people that are similar to them. When you start developing multiple circles, each of those circles is going to have a different personality. And they're going to enjoy doing different kinds of things. So that's why you want to develop 2 or 3 or 4 circles of friends. And it doesn't have to be 20 or 30 friends in each circle. It can be 2 or 3 or 4. And you go do things together from time to time, and keep yourself active. Keep your mind focused on something outside of you. And because when you focus on the inside, all you're going to do is say, "Oh, woe is me." It's just, unless you're working on yourself and you're in the gym and saying, "Oh, look at these biceps," or "Oh, it's thigh day," or leg day. "Oh, look at my legs." Then it's okay to focus on yourself. Those are the good things to focus on. try to become if you're not already, try to become a lifelong learner. You read books, learn something, become more attractive to a potential mate. Become the extraordinary person that you're looking for. So there are all of those things that you can work on to help you move past your last relationship. And again, it takes time. It takes effort. The best things in life are the most difficult things. It's going to take us time to find that extraordinary mate. But if it was easy, we'd all be there, and it just wouldn't be as extraordinary now, would it? So anyway, you guys have gotten silent on me here. I hope this has been beneficial for you. If you got any more questions, shoot them in real quick. So again, it's difficult to move forward and to start finding that extraordinary relationship when your mind is stuck on a past relationship or past relationships. I've worked with serial daters or serial monogamous, not serial daters, serial monogamists. A serial monogamist is one that is a person that jumps from one relationship to the next, and doesn't take any real time to heal and grieve the loss of that relationship. They just, within a couple of weeks, they're dating somebody else. And, guys are probably more prone to that than women, because we have a problem being alone for the most part. But it isn't until you learn how to be alone, how you learn to recognize that you're happy with your own company. You don't need anybody else's company to be happy. When you get to that point, you start dating from a position of power, as opposed to being needy and saying, "Oh, I got to be in a relationship. Oh, I need somebody. I'm so lonely." When you start dating from that position, you're dating from a position of weakness, and that's when you're really going to run into problems. That's when. Hey, Laura, thanks for joining in. And Stacy says, "Oh my God, my daughter." We can all recognize that in people around us. Make sure you recognize it in you. Make sure that you get to a point where you are comfortable with your own company. Yeah, it doesn't mean it's always going to be fun on a Saturday night when you don't have a date, or when your girlfriends are out doing something else and you just didn't feel like going. I love this one. Stacy says, "I'm working on me right now." That's awesome. And that's what I love to hear. That's what I love to see is you guys working on yourselves and making yourselves the best possible you making yourselves the extraordinary mate that you'd love to date. And and it doesn't always come easy, and it takes time. I know it took me 7-8 years before I got comfortable with who I am, and I got comfortable with my own company. Is it always fun on a Saturday night? No. But I make it every week. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you being here. We're almost at the top of an hour. Hey, Laura, let's see what you got to say here. Laura says, "Gotta love the shadow work." Expansion, want a partner who does the same. Absolutely. Hey, now, not any younger. So anyway, it just, these are all things that we all have to work on. I continually work on myself, and this is a process for all of us. And I try to share as much of my life and stuff that's going on. And for those of you that haven't followed me for a while, hey, Dale, thanks for joining in. Yeah, glad to see you're here. Dale says, "Hey Rick, kind of late, but always wanted to listen in." Hey Dale, if you want to hear the whole thing, it'll be up in a recording here shortly after I sign off. But it's I'm so glad you're here. It's good to see you. Just lost my train of thought here, but that's okay. It's all about becoming that extraordinary person, becoming an extraordinary person for you. And what you'll end up finding out is that when you get happy with yourself, it'll be much easier to date. I know what I was going to say. For those of you that haven't followed me until recently, I've just recently transitioned. In fact, this week was the final week of the transition into moving out of my apartment in Kansas City into full-time RV life. And I've had and I shared that on my Facebook page, and I've had like 150 people not only like it, but they reach out and say, "Hey, cool, we're following. See, we're thinking about doing the same thing. We want to follow." And what this may actually morph into is a conversation about dating on the move, so to speak, because now I'll be in Kansas City for another couple of weeks, and then I'll start migrating down to Texas, and I'll be in Texas from December through March. So I'm kind of formulating a plan on how to meet people and connect with people down in the Waco, Austin, Temple, Texas area. And that may become part of this to create additional resources for you guys to work with or to think through and to be helpful for you. Hey Jacqueline, thank you for being here. I'm glad to see you're here. So that may become another avenue to explore is because one of the questions I get so often is how do you meet people? Well, this is going to be a great opportunity for me to actually do some hands-on work on getting out and meeting people and being social and coming back and sharing that with you guys. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the podcast today. I hope it was helpful. Dale, it was good to see you. Lonnie, thanks for joining in. Laura, Stacy, and Stacy, thank you. You guys have a great and blessed week also. I hope you guys stay out of the snow. I'm going to disappear out of here tomorrow morning and be back in Kansas City tomorrow night. Always a fun trip. I enjoy that driving. I just have this pleasure from driving through the farm country, through southern Minnesota, through Iowa, into northern Missouri. Once I start getting into Missouri, I don't know what it is. It's to me, get into more hilly country, and it's just not as interesting. I love driving through Kansas and the for those of you that travel. Driving through the Flint Hills of Kansas. Oh, that's just pictures of Conestoga wagons traveling, pioneers exploring the country and moving west. So anyway, but I digress. Have a great and blessed week, everyone, and I'll see you next week. I will probably be in Kansas somewhere. I'll probably be in my trailer, and we'll broadcast from there, but we'll just have to see. So anyway, I love you guys. Have a safe week, and we'll see you next week on Monday Mastery, live at 5.